back to another video where I'm going to be talking about tips and tricks about being a engineering major and things that will help you get through it. So I'm in a room where people are trying to get in, so we'll make this quick. So let's just get this video started. Tip number one, which is super obvious, is to make friends in your classes so you can work on homework together, compare answers, and just help each other out to get through engineering, because it can be super stressful and you need some buddies to help you along the way. Tip number two is Chegg is definitely worth it your first 2 years of college, because you're taking those intro classes like your chemistries, your physics, dynamics, statics, like all those. Usually all my professors have used online platforms that got questions straight out of the textbook, or the professor will assign problems out of the textbook, so you can really find those off of Chegg. After that, in your upperclassmen level classes, your professors already know the drill about Chegg, and so they will create their own problems, not take problems out of the textbook. And usually Chegg is not really reliant on answering those questions because they don't understand the methods that you use in your specific class to solve those problems. Also, what I recommend is, since you had to pay a monthly subscription for Chegg, I recommend sharing it with a friend, because with the Chegg account you can have 2 devices under the account, so you can split that $15 or $16 subscription with another classmate or a friend, so you save a little bit of money. Tip number 3 is to make specific friends with upperclassmen and frat guys, because usually they're the ones that have the old archives of tests and homework. And here at LSU we use a engineering flowchart, and what I did, not purposefully, but I'm glad that I did it, was take classes that weren't supposed to be taken within my semester, because a flowchart is just like recommended flow path, like you don't really actually have to follow it. So I took classes with people who were a semester ahead of me or a year ahead of me, and so they were willing to give me old tests to study off from, and old notes, and recommendations of what classes I should take and what teachers to avoid, and all of that stuff that really helps you along the way in engineering. Also, just a heads up, whenever you get some archives from frat guys, they're not the most organized. They're still helpful in some way, but find someone who has organized notes, who usually has corrected their tests, so you can practice those tests for upcoming exams and all of that. Tip number 4 is more of a realization, but usually in your classes you're either going to be the one who finished their homework first or the one who waits last minute. I was the one who finished their homework really early on, and so people will come to me asking to send my answers. Don't do that. Don't do that. If they're asking for it like the night of, and you've already done it and you spent hours and you're gonna send to someone who's probably gonna take what, like 30 minutes to do it, don't do that unless they're gonna pay you a sum of something. So just don't do that. It is okay if you're comparing answers with someone, or if they need help with one question, like that's okay, but never ever send your entire homework unless you're comparing answers with someone else who has finished their homework. Tip number 5, which is also obvious, is if you don't procrastinate, you don't pull all-nighters. I've never pulled an all-nighter. The latest I've stayed up was during like finals week, and it was probably like 2 or 4 a.m. Yeah, I'm not the one to pull all-nighters, but then again, that's me. And there's people out there who do their best work when they procrastinate and when they have to do their work then and there. So if that's you, go ahead, but hey, I like my sleep, so I'm not gonna procrastinate. If you are, you go ahead. Tip number 6 is never buy engineering textbooks. There are plenty of legal websites, I'll put them somewhere here, that you can download PDFs, so when you buy the textbook you'll be carrying that heavy old thing in your backpack, not the best on your back. So always look for those free PDFs. Also, upperclassmen sometimes have those PDFs. If you're that kind of person who needs a physical textbook to like study, ask the upperclassmen if they have a textbook that you can buy off of them, because that is a cheaper alternative than to buy a textbook brand new. Tip number 7 is iPads are so awesome when it comes to taking notes. I think for any major, iPads are so awesome. I'll link a video I did like last year of how I use my iPad as an engineering student. It's just so great because you don't need to print any slides out. You can download the slides into an app like Notability or GoodNotes, and it just keeps all of your documents organized. You can put it into folders, you can create notebooks. It's just so great. And it is also awesome for doing homework. I know sometimes professors want it to be on engineering paper, but some professors are like, hey, this is the future. It's fine that you do your homework on your iPad. And it's just so great. Just so great. So hop on that boat. I know iPads are kind of expensive, but if you buy your freshman year, last year through senior year in engineering, like it's just great. Tip number 8 is to keep all of your notes and tests and anything else that helped you along the way for your classes on a Dropbox or a hard drive, because you can sell those to someone later on, make a little bit of money. And also, if you're in a class where you're taking a part 1 and the part 2, usually part 2 depends on part 1, so it's really beneficial to just look back in the notes and you understand your own notes. For instance, I took Geotech 1, right now I'm Geotech 2, I kept all my notes, and it's so easy for me to refer back to things that I learned in the past and understand the little notes I wrote down. It's just very beneficial, so keep all your notes. I recommend either scanning them in or anything of that sort, because it's just so helpful. So don't get rid of your stuff. I know some people at the end of the semester are like, oh, I hate this class, I'm gonna throw all this stuff away. I don't do that. If you want to do that, that's fine. But on me, I recommend keeping all of your notes and exams. And also, as a civil engineering student, it is recommended that I take my Fundamental of Engineering exam, and so I can always refer back to my notes to study. Tip number 9, we're going to be talking about group work. Group work can be a hit or miss. You're either going to have a good group or you're going to have a bad group. I have had both instances, but when it comes to group work, you always want to establish from the first assignment that you're going to divide the work evenly. You never want to be the one who does most of the work for like a lab or anything like that, because in the future, your group mates are going to be like, oh, she's going to do that. Oh, she is the one who's going to start the lab report. Oh, she's going to turn in the lab report. I've been in that instance. So you just want to establish that you're going to divide the work and you're going to trade off the easy parts and the hard parts and all of that. Also, the hardest part of any group project is actually starting it. So you always want someone in the group to take initiative, either you, if it's not you, someone else, who is just willing to like, hey guys, we're gonna start this on this day, we're gonna meet up at this time, and this person's gonna start the group meeting. You just need someone to take initiative and just start off the group project, and it goes from there. Starting is the hardest part. And number 10, your GPA. When it comes to engineering, your GPA is not the most important factor. It probably plays a role in finding your first initial job or your internship, because you really don't have a lot of credentials. Like, you might have past internships, but like your GPA is a factor. But what I recommend is to keep your GPA above a 3.0 if you're part of the 4-point GPA system. And a lot of companies these days don't really look into your GPA as your most important factor. I was in an interview once and I had a like 3.9 at the time. I no longer have that. But they're like, oh, your GPA is so high. Like, they made it seem like it was a bad thing. And then they were like, do you not have fun? I do have fun, but it kind of hurt. And after that, I'm like, hey, I shouldn't be taking my GPA so seriously or my grades so seriously. I should be focusing on establishing my network and building my leadership positions. And just all of that then encompasses into a candidate that a company is looking for. For instance, like joining clubs like Society of Women Engineers or associations that go into your engineering major, like they also look into that. But I would say that GPA does matter if you're like pursuing a engineering degree and then you're going into med school. The people who do that, like, go you. I couldn't be doing that. I have a family friend who is like a chemical engineer and now she's like becoming a surgeon, and she had really good grades and did so many other things too. She's like definition of queen energy. That's 10 tips or tricks or hacks, whatever you want to call it, to be successful in engineering. And you got this. It just takes a lot of helping each other out, you know, because engineering, when you go out into the real world, like you're never going to be on a project by yourself. You're not going to be maintaining a plant by yourself. It is a group effort, and your engineering professors understand that. The higher ups understand that, so everything is group work, group related, helping each other out. So yeah, that's it. Hopefully this was short and simple, but yeah, let me get out of this room. This is the Dow room. Welcome to the Dow rooms in the PFT, which is the engineering building at LSU. Yeah, that's it. Okay, catch y'all later. Bye.